Welcome to this series on programming in Python. In this video we're going to look at getting the software that you need. My name's Andy Wicks and I'm going to guide you through that first step of the process. First of all, an overview. Programming is easy, but you need the right tools. So if you were trying to do carpentry, you wouldn't get a welding tool. It makes a bit of a mess of the wood. You need at least 3 programs. All programmers need these. You need the program which lives between you and what you write on the computer. In this case, that's going to be Python. You need an editor in which you can write the program. We're going to be using PyCharm Educational Edition. And finally, you need programs to create and edit whatever your programs use. At first, we won't be worrying too much about that, but later on, in particular, you'll need a text editor and a graphics editor. But we're going to concentrate on the text editor first. So, you need the interpreter or compiler. Let me explain the difference between the two. When you write a program in Python, what it does is it takes a line of your program, translates that into machine code, and then runs that machine code. It then goes on to the next line of your program, translates that into machine code, runs it, and goes back and fetches the next instruction, and so on, until it's worked its way through to the end of your program. That's called an interpreter. If you were working in a language such as Java, what it would do is take your program and translate the whole lot into machine code first. You then run that machine code version. But as I say, Python is an interpreter. So these are the programs that take what you've written and convert what you've written into machine code, the language of the computer. This is what people think of as a programming language, and in this case we're talking Python. Now you can get Python at www.python.org, downloads. The addresses that you see in this will all be in the description at the bottom. So, downloading Python, well that's quite easy. You go to the address on the previous slide and you'll get something that looks like this. You then click on the download Python program. Now at the moment it's showing 3.8.3, but that may change. The principle is exactly the same. Next, you need something called an integrated development environment, or an IDE for short. This is a text editor, and the text editor is set up in such a way that if you make any mistakes when you're coding, it highlights them. You can use an ordinary text editor, such as Notepad++, which we'll come on to in a minute. But that is really not the way to go. That will just make your life hell. So what you need is a good integrated development environment. And what we're going to use is something called PyCharm Educational Edition. If you're not part of an educational establishment, in other words, if you don't have an email address for your establishment, then just download the PyCharm Community Edition. That will do almost exactly the same thing. But this program will tell you if there are errors in your code and show you exactly what you need to change. Now sometimes this is almost always this is a help, but sometimes it can be a bit of a problem. Don't worry, we'll come on to that shortly. You can get PyCharm Educational Edition from https www.jetbrains.com/pycharmedu. When you go there, what you'll get is something like this. You then click on the Download Free button and away you go. You download that piece of software. When you try to install it, it will ask you for your email address at a school or college. In other words, it's looking for something that ends in .ac, and then the country code. So here, .ac.uk. If you haven't got that, use the PyCharm Community Edition. And other software. Your program will usually use text files and graphics when you get on a bit. You'll want pretty pictures and you'll want to be able to read things to and from text files. So you need a text editor. All programmers need a text editor regardless of which language you're programming in. So it's a good idea to have something like Notepad++. Notepad++ is free and it's wonderful. You can also get a good graphics editor by going to gimp.org downloads. If you go to these places and download that software, again, both are free, both are usable without having to buy a license. There are no extras. And you then have all the software you need to be able to start programming. So if you're looking at Notepad++, this is what you get. When you go to the address on the previous page, you need to go to the download link. When you do that, you can download the latest version of Notepad++. At the moment it's 7.8.7, but that may change again. Alternatively, if you go to GIMP, you have to scroll down a little until you see this part of the screen. When you get there, you click on this button, Download GIMP. Now at the moment it's 2.10.20, but again that will change. When you install these two pieces of software, you're then ready to start programming. So finally, in the next video, you're going to see how to create the first program. And it's not as hard as you might think, but there are some things that you need to do, some setup-y bits that you do once and only once that I need to show you. Once everything is set up, then we can start getting down to videos on programming in detail. Whoa! You're almost a programmer. So thank you very much for listening, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.